I'm Tan Sihui, CNA's China Correspondent. Over the course of 5 months between July and December 2024, I was on a journey to investigate the issue of abandoned high-speed train stations across China. I also took the opportunity to take a closer look at the rapid development of China's high-speed train system.
Wow, it's quite unbelievable.
The journey began when we spotted local media reports of so-called ghost train stations. My team and I pulled up these online articles. Now, this one says that the high-speed dream is broken and explains the reasons for the suspension of high-speed construction in several regions. And this one tells us where the 26 decommissioned stations are.
郑州就是在这个位置。
The team discussed and believed it's a story worth following up on. It would be interesting to go there to find out exactly what's behind the abandoned station.
需要多少时间从北京到河南？
然后它只能飞到郑州，然后再坐火车。
We decided to check out 3 stations in Zhengzhou, Henan province, where the number of abandoned stations was one of the highest in the country. Last July, we made our way to Zhengzhou. In less than 2 decades, China has emerged as a global leader in high-speed rail infrastructure. Today, its high-speed rail network spans a staggering 48,000 kilometers. Trains on China's high-speed rail network can reach speeds of up to 350 kilometers per hour, making it one of the fastest globally, and as you can tell, we're really going at very high speeds. There are plans to go even faster, with speeds of up to 400 kilometers per hour. Chinese President Xi Jinping once lauded the high-speed rail as a success of independent innovation. He called for greater development in the transport network to pave the way for Chinese-style modernization. Our destination, Zhengzhou, is a sprawling city of more than 12 million people. The capital of central Henan province is probably best known as the biggest iPhone manufacturing hub in the world. Foxconn, the iPhone supplier, used to have hundreds of thousands of people working at its factories here. Today, I'm here for a very different reason. This is 1 in 4 high-speed rail train stations that has been left unused in Henan province. And as you can tell, there's not a soul in sight except for these cars parked here. And this entire space takes up about 3,000 square meters. That's about the size of a football field, and it's completely vacant, which is quite a strange sight to behold, especially when we can see around the surrounding areas new buildings. On closer inspection, a sign showed that the station shut in 2017, only 2 years after it began operation. Inside, it was as if time stood still. Just a 20 minutes drive away, another empty station.
For the high-speed railway, it was a poster child for China's infrastructure and the so-called Chinese miracle. It was quite helpful to improve the local economy and improve the welfare of the average person in China. But during the hype of the infrastructure spending, almost every single county was planning to get connected in this high-speed railway network, which was clearly way above what the market can sustain. So as a result, now we're looking at a lot of the wasted investment.
In its ambitious drive to blanket the country with high-speed rail, China's railway operator has taken on an increasingly larger debt load. But of the vast high-speed rail network, only 7 routes are profitable. Last year, its liabilities grew another 70 billion yuan to 6.2 trillion yuan, or about $860 billion, while 4 major high-speed lines raised prices by as much as 20% to meet rising costs.
As we can see that most high-speed railway do not make any money in China. So they, as long as they operate, they have to rely on the fiscal support. What has to happen is that the government do a calculation about the social benefit along with the asset return. So we cannot just see the money return when it comes to this kind of infrastructure. Then they could have a more reasonable decision about what the next step should be.
Well, Siwei, I have to say that was a pretty epic journey.
It was completely empty and vacant, and so it was me. Our story on the ghost train stations aired on the 13th of August 2024. The story quickly gained traction when it's uploaded on YouTube the next day, since it's still a story underreported by international media. But it also sparked a heated debate online. I must say, the strong reaction to the story surprised me. More than 350,000 views online and nearly 2,000 comments. But it also goes to show that the story is an underreported issue. And from some of the comments online, you can see that there's a lot of admiration for China's high-speed train development, not just from the Chinese people, but also from the rest of the world. Internally, we reviewed our coverage and concluded that our story painted a fair picture of what happened. I continued to follow China's high-speed rail scene closely. Then one day, I received a surprise message. I'm Tan Si-hui, CNA's China Correspondent. I was on a journey to investigate China's abandoned train stations that have been making news in recent years. In July last year, I visited 3 so-called ghost train stations in the central Chinese city of Zhengzhou. I learned that the rapid expansion of China's high-speed rail network was no mean feat, and it came with a hefty price tag. In September, 2 months after we came back from our trip to Zhengzhou, I received text from a keen train observer. We connected over LinkedIn after the first story aired. Indeed, local state media confirmed that a total of 6 out of 26 decommissioned high-speed railway stations would be back in service. What has changed that prompted the reopening of these stations? To find out, in December, I hopped on to a high-speed train to get to the abandoned stations we previously visited.
Wow, it's quite unbelievable that I'm finally alighting at this train station. 5 months ago, this was completely shut. But it looks like only a handful of passengers alighted at this stop.
I spoke to one station operator there.
对，我觉得开了对这个咱周边那个群众非常好，非常方便，可以直接去机场，方便了群众很多，而且非常快。
However, just outside the train station, it was as quiet as before.
5 months ago, we could not even go through those doors. This area was completely cordoned off. Since it reopened, we spoke to some people. They say that it's a lot more convenient going to work and to the airport. But as you can tell, there aren't many passengers using this train station.
Their consideration is that, okay, for chicken and egg, okay, let's do the chicken first. Even if it doesn't really lay enough eggs at the moment, and I need to make the chicken house and grow the chicken, and I hope one day they're going to lay enough eggs. Actually, all across China, because infrastructure is getting so sophisticated, and many of them are dealing with the last mile connectivity, we do notice that many of those infrastructures are really investment far ahead of their basic calculation of return on investment. The motivation is that, okay, it contributes to immediately to the Chinese GDP because investment itself is part of the GDP, and in hope that it's going to be there to elevate other type of economic sectors.
As China's high-speed rail system has matured, the cost of building new stations has also risen, driven by land acquisition and the complexity of integration. As a result, many of the newer stations have been built in areas that are farther from the city centers. These locations often offer more affordable land and fewer logistical challenges. While these make them more viable, it also means they are less convenient for commuters.
因为可能第一，它刚开通，知道的人不多，我觉得挺好的。因为我们这边本来的话离主城区比较远嘛。
因为这边入住率还不是很高，住的人不多。
At another reopened railway station, footfall was brisk. There were residential buildings close by and a busy road next to it.
Costs are still an issue, but I think now there's a case of like this support from a variety of factors. I think local authorities are willing to like pitch in and just simply reopen these stations. And also I think as cities develop, you're going to get more, more and more people, pretty much building houses next to pretty much intercity railway stations, and then it all really kind of adds up. In the parts where the local authorities are either well off or they put the effort, then they will pretty much open the stations and or reopen them. In places which are less developed, there's probably going to be less impetus for this to happen.
Zhengzhou is a manufacturing hub in central Henan province. Home to Apple suppliers Foxconn's factories, Chinese EV maker BYD also employs tens of thousands of workers at its factories here. The city was hit hard by the double whammy of US President Donald Trump's first trade war and a nationwide housing crisis. In 2022, economic growth was a meager 1%. Last year, the city's GDP expanded by 5.7%, beating the national average. While signs of recovery have emerged, the cracks from the property slump are still visible. This taxi driver once worked in the property sector for more than a decade before changing jobs.
我是给房地产送东西的，送东西的，每个月大概有个，那时候每个月大概有几万块钱收入吧。
OK， 那现在呢？
现在每个月1万多块钱吧。
With the property sector, which was a key pillar of growth, still struggling, it's hoped that the reopened train stations will improve connectivity and boost other economic activities, such as tourism. At a nearby tourist spot, it was quiet when I visited. Perhaps it's the off-peak season. I spoke to one couple who recently moved back to their hometown. They say houses are cheaper to own here compared to first-tier cities like Beijing. Although they've not taken a train at the nearby Nantao station, they believe there may be more facilities in the future.
我感觉时间长，它肯定是对这一块还是有促进的。因为有个高铁，你像我们买到这边的房子，都是感觉这边交通挺方便的。
The timeline for when many of the train lines which cost trillions of yuan to build will turn profitable remains unclear. What's obvious, they've driven China's economic development over the past 2 decades, and it may continue to be so in the decades to come.
This is Tokyo's Oi Depot, an operations hub for Japan's iconic bullet trains, or shinkansen. It's where the trains plying the world's oldest high-speed rail line between Tokyo and Osaka wait to undergo maintenance or to be dispatched for service. As the train nears, the maintenance crew doesn't waste a beat getting into action. Working from nighttime till daybreak, Mizuki Inokoshi and his partner have to check its 16 train cars fast.
使用検査は1編成あたり50分で行うので、1日でだいたい12編成の検査を行っています。限られた時間内で消耗品の確認であったり、あと不具合を見つける必要があるので、検査中は一瞬たりとも気が抜けません。
This depot is one of 4 owned and run by Japanese rail operator JR Central. It's labor-intensive, with 160 staff handling train inspection here.
JR Central workers check signals, electricity circuits, cars, doors, brakes, and the body of the train every 2 days. Transport authorities perform a similar inspection every 45 days and also take apart some parts, including wheels and brakes, every 20 months for a detailed examination. All components are inspected thoroughly about once in 40 months, or after the Shinkansen has traveled 1.6 million kilometers.
26-year-old Mr. Inokoshi joined JR Central after graduating with an aerospace degree. His work, a childhood dream and a source of pride. But even then, the high-pressure environment can take a toll.
私たちの職場は24時間365日休みなく稼働しています。特にゴールデンウィークやお正月などの長期連休では使用検査の繁忙期となって体力的にすごくきついなと思うことがあります。
Services are increased during peak periods. During Japan's Golden Week from the 25th of April to 6th of May, nearly 4.4 million passengers took the Tokaido Shinkansen line linking Tokyo and Osaka, up 5% from last year. Even on regular days, ridership is rising as inbound tourism booms. While operator JR Central is able to cope, the aging rail infrastructure, now more than 60 years old, is accelerating the need for change, as I find out. The famous Dr. Yellow inspection train detects faults as it speeds along the tracks, but JR Central stopped using it in January. Its technology overtaken by faster passenger trains with diagnostic capabilities.
We are looking at cutting-edge technologies such as AI or robotics that are emerging every day now. We are developing an automatic train operation system or automated inspection system.
JR Central hopes that by stationing itself to harness new technology, this can alleviate a labor crunch as Japan's workforce shrinks due to falling birth rates.
Japanese working population is expected to decline by 20% in 20 years. In reaction to these issues, in 2021, we launched a business reform program.
This could also cut costs by as much as $550 million over the next 10 to 15 years. Structures such as pillars and tunnels in quake-prone Japan need to be reinforced as rail infrastructure ages. This threatens to drive up expenses, even as operators report a rise in revenue. At the same time, there are ambitious and pricey plans to reinvent the wheel. The Shinkansen line connecting Tokyo and Osaka, a major economic center, cemented Japan's reputation as a high-speed rail pioneer. And it's here where the country is making inroads into another innovation, the superconducting maglev, known locally as the Chuo Shinkansen. It aims to halve travel time for the 515-kilometer journey between the two major cities to 67 minutes. The train is magnetically levitated, eliminating the need for wheels. Without friction between wheels and rails, it can go faster than conventional railways. And I'm about to experience exactly how fast it is on a media test ride. We went back and forth along a 42.8-kilometer long test track called the Yamanashi Maglev Line, where it swiftly hit speeds of up to 500 kilometers per hour. It once recorded 603 kilometers per hour a decade ago, shattering world records. 5.1 million kilometers of test runs have been logged as of January, but while the technology is ready, the tunnels are not on track. The first phase of maglev operations between Tokyo and Nagoya, a manufacturing powerhouse, was set to begin in 2027. But this is being pushed back to 2034 or later, according to local media, due to environmental impact concerns. Operator JR Central says Japan needs the maglev, even though the Shinkansen already plies the route.
Aging, deterioration, or major earthquakes, so it is necessary to have a dual system between Tokyo, Nagoya, and Osaka. That's the purpose of the maglev Shinkansen.
Estimated costs for the first leg have ballooned to 7.04 trillion yen, or $48 billion. At the same time, regional rivals such as China are challenging Japan for dominance in high-speed rail technology. Tokyo is trailing Beijing in exporting its systems due to reasons like high cost and the need for dedicated Shinkansen tracks. While it's making inroads into India, a project in the US from Dallas to Houston in Texas is still waiting for the green light from the Trump administration, despite overcoming regulatory issues, according to JR Central.
US regulation prohibits us from bringing Shinkansen into Texas. Therefore, I had a lot of discussion with federal agencies to make a new rule for Shinkansen safety.
With challenges mounting, Japan's famous Shinkansen is at a crossroads as it aims to redefine speed and the future of transport.